Fear. The first language a child understands without translation. Logic comes later. First, there's the dark corner. Black water under your feet. A forest that has somehow erased the way home. Then an adult leans a little closer. They're waiting for you. In Spain, they called it El Coco. No one could agree on what it looked like, which only made it more convincing. Japan had the Kappa waiting at the water's edge. Baba Yaga lived in the forest where Vasilisa's own family sent her. And La Llorona wandered the riverbanks, mourning a crime that changed every time someone retold it. Stories like these could stop a child at the edge of real danger. Adults soon discovered they could also end an argument faster than any explanation. Welcome to the inner unknown. These are 4 creatures adults once used to raise their children. In a Portuguese play performed in 1518, a child sees the devil and calls him Coco. The playwright never stops to explain the word. The audience already knows exactly who the child means. By then, Coco had become a familiar presence in Iberian homes. Parents used the name to settle a restless child, keep someone off the street after dark, or bury a question they had no interest in answering. The name shifted as the story traveled. El Coco, El Cuco, El Cucuy, Cuca. Its appearance was left to whoever told the story. Some described a hairy creature. Others imagined a man carrying a sack. Sometimes all a child saw was a shadow on the roof, behind the door, or under the bed. There was never an official face. That worked better than any pair of horns. Once you draw a monster, a child can study it. It has a height, a shape, a measurable number of teeth. Turn on the light, and suddenly the thing is far too large to fit inside the closet. El Coco had no physical limits. An adult supplied the name. The child's imagination handled the rest. One heard breathing outside the bedroom. Another saw movement under the bed. A third became convinced that letting one foot slip out from under the blanket was all the invitation the creature needed. Every child received a custom-built nightmare, assembled from whatever frightened them most. The parent only had to state the terms. Go to sleep, stay inside, be quiet, or Coco will come for you. Sometimes the threat protected a child. The street after dark really could be dangerous. But the family monster quickly picked up overtime. It guarded the alley outside and the adult's right to give orders without explaining them. Fear became a universal argument. El Coco was cheap to keep around. It took up no space, asked for no food, and reported for duty whenever a parent needed it. One sentence brought it to life. The child finished the drawing. A vague shadow was enough for the bedroom. At the river, danger needed rules. In Japanese folklore, Kappa inhabited rivers, ponds, and marshes. People blamed them for drowned swimmers, missing children, and attacks on livestock. Water could hide a sudden drop, a hard current, or stones slick enough to take your footing. Kappa gave those invisible hazards a will of their own. Something beneath the surface was waiting for the wrong step. Descriptions varied from one region to another. Over time, a familiar image emerged. A small humanoid body, webbed limbs, a beak, and either a shell or reptile-like skin. The important feature sat on top of its head, a shallow dish filled with water. That water carried the creature's strength. Spill it, and Kappa weakened. So people developed one of folklore's strangest survival tactics: bow. Bound by rules of courtesy, Kappa had to bow back. Its head tipped forward, the water spilled out, and the strength disappeared. A river killer defeated by good manners. That detail tells us more about Kappa than the shell or the beak ever could. This creature followed a code. It made bargains, kept promises, helped human beings, and in some stories, even passed on medical knowledge. A captured Kappa might swear never to attack again, and in those stories, it honored the agreement. Its brutality came with almost bureaucratic integrity. Learn the rules, and you had a chance to negotiate with whatever had been hiding below the surface. For a child, the practical lesson was simple. Never trust calm water just because you can see through it. Something stronger than you may be waiting underneath, completely unimpressed by how well you think you can swim. Today, Kappa smiles from storefronts, appears in video games, and gets sold as a plush toy. A dangerous water creature has been rebranded as a friendly green mascot. The warning survived the makeover. A current is difficult for a child to picture. A hand closing around the ankle is not. The river threatened children from outside the home. In Vasilisa's story, danger opened the front door from within. Vasilisa's stepmother puts out the fire at home and sends the girl to fetch another flame. The only person who has one is Baba Yaga. Getting there means crossing a deep forest and approaching a hut surrounded by human skulls. The assignment sounds almost innocent: bring back fire. Being eaten on the way is treated like a minor family inconvenience. Vasilisa takes a small doll, the only gift left by her dead mother, and enters the forest. She finds a hut standing on bird legs. Its owner smells human flesh before the visitor even reaches the door. Baba Yaga could eat her immediately. Instead, she assigns a test. Cook the food, sort the grain, separate the seeds. Finish in a single night what an army of servants could barely manage. The fairy tale cannibal starts to sound like an employer who decided long ago that payroll was optional. With the doll's help, Vasilisa completes the work. By morning, every task is done. The girl survives Baba Yaga's questions, receives permission to leave, and collects the fire she was promised. The flames are burning inside the eye sockets of a human skull. Vasilisa carries it home. The skull's gaze follows her stepmother and stepsisters until nothing remains of them but ash. Her family sent her into the forest to find death. Death followed her back to their address. Baba Yaga's behavior changes from one story to the next. She hunts fugitives, feeds travelers, points out the road, or hands a hero the one object needed to continue the journey. Ordinary morality does little to predict what she will do. What matters is endurance, attention, finishing the work, accepting help when it comes from suspicious hands. Her hut stands at the edge of the familiar world, where family promises lose their authority. Vasilisa enters as a child marked for death. She returns as someone capable of bringing consequences home. The story offers no comfort. It prepares a child for the day adults close the door behind them, and the wilderness proves more honest than family. Baba Yaga might greet that child with a single question. Still breathing? Then get to work. La Llorona carried a different betrayal. In her story, the adult simply walked away. The woman beside the water inherited the blame. The testimony against La Llorona has been changing for centuries. In one version, she drowns her children to punish the man who abandoned her. In another, she loses them in an accident. Some stories blame shame. Others leave her trapped by poverty, violence, or public disgrace. The sentence remains the same: wander beside the water forever and weep. The best-known telling begins with a man who leaves a woman and their children for another family. Overcome by despair, rage, or madness, she drowns the children in a river. Understanding arrives too late. There is no one left to save. After death, her ghost continues along riverbanks, canals, and lakes. Her crying carries a trap of its own. When it sounds far away, she may be standing right behind you. When it seems close, she may still be across the water. No one can tell which direction the danger is coming from. So the rule given to children was brutally clear. If you hear a woman crying near the water, run the other way. La Llorona has been connected to La Malinche, the colonial past, and older female figures associated with water, motherhood, and omens. No single theory explains the entire legend. Each region placed its own grief inside her voice. For children, the crying marked the deadly edge of a river at night. For women, the legend warned what could happen when a mother failed the role society had assigned her. The man disappeared from most versions much faster. He left, chose someone else, walked out of the story. His guilt took a few lines. Hers received a white shroud, an eternal scream, and centuries of punishment. The man set the catastrophe in motion. The mother became the monster, and the community gained a useful story for keeping children at home. It also gained somewhere to put everything no one wanted to discuss in daylight: betrayal, poverty, dead children, female despair, and the responsibility of those who left the frame early. La Llorona kept calling for her children. Other people's children heard her and stayed home. Stories like these took centuries to form. Real drownings became entangled with dangerous roads, family taboos, abandoned children, and adults who needed obedience immediately. Sometimes the monster saved a child's life. Sometimes it saved the parent from having to explain. The real cost showed up later. Rivers became safer. Forests were mapped. Electric lights came on in children's bedrooms. And still, a child will sometimes pull both feet under the blanket. Once a monster moves into the imagination, it no longer needs a river, a forest, or a dark closet. It brings the darkness with it. If all you want is another catalogue of monsters, YouTube already has more than enough. But if you want to understand the work human beings hired those monsters to do, subscribe to the Inner Unknown. There are many more creatures waiting ahead, and some of them never lived in the forest.